It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? I kind of like the high five, but if you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. At ChumbaCasino.com, choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses. So don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18 plus.
We made this.
Black alert. Black alert. Black alert.
Hello and welcome back to We Are Starfleet, a Star Trek podcast here on the We Made This network. And I have to shout out our Twitter account, which we're trying to get the proper We Made This on Twitter, like at WEMADE, but someone took it. So instead, it's just W Made This. And I know that can be, I guess, a little confusing, but man, that's the thing about branding and trying to like keep everything consistent and make it all make sense. But it is what it is. At W Made This on Twitter. Make sure you guys are following that because there's a lot of Star Trek news coming. There's a lot of Star Trek shows that we have that's going to be running concurrently and at the same time. Uh, it, I, I think we're going to have 52 full weeks of Trek, it feels like. Maybe a couple of weeks of break here and there. But it's a hell of a time to be a Star Trek fan. And we're trying to capture everything. We're trying to talk about everything as much as we can. And so at W Made This on Twitter will help collate all those We Made This network feeds from our various shows. Make It So, covering Star Trek Picard. And today, my guest is Luke Winch, who is on Make It So, a Star Trek Picard podcast, to chat all the upcoming things. And Luke, welcome to the show. You're filling in for Ian today, who took over for me for the past 2 weeks while I was on vacation. Luke, thank you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really good, man, and it's really good to be back. It's funny because I'm almost bookending this season of We Are Starfleet because me and Ashley stepped in on the very first episode. This is the penultimate, so yeah, almost bookending this season. So it's going to be a blast, kind of discussing what's been going on since and also what's happening in today's episode. So glad to be here.
Yes. I'm so happy to have you on because, like you said, you bookended it. It's been a wild ride of a season. We are going into the season finale. We have learned so much about the DMA, Species 10C. What does it all mean? We're going to be talking Booker and Michael's relationship in this episode, which has evolved very maturely. The show feels like it has grown up in terms of how they've built that relationship. And following it has been, from a storytelling standpoint, very rewarding. And I have a theory where if it goes in that direction, we'll take Star Trek Discovery in a brand new, totally mature direction. So let me put a pin in that cap real quick so we can talk how we feel about the episode Species 10C overall. How many tribbles are you giving this episode? Is it every tribble in the grain wheat storage, or is it one or two?
Okay, I don't want to sound hyperbolic right now, but this is my favorite Star Trek Discovery episode to date.
Whoa. Okay.
This for me is all the tribbles. I find it very hard to fault a lot of stuff in this episode.
Mm.
There's a couple of little niggles, but they are just kind of passer niggles, really. But I thought this episode was really strong. I think the writers were on top of their game. There was a real tension to the entire episode, and I've not
Yes.
felt that on Discovery for a very long time, possibly ever. Like I was literally on the edge of my seat, and there was no predictability about the episode. I didn't know where it was going to go. I couldn't guess too much what was going on,
Mm.
and I loved that. I love that kind of agency in TV drama in general, but to have it in this episode, 412 Species 10, it was just so good to see. To see Disco on top of its game on this episode. I mean,
Oh yeah.
I love Rosetta last week. I thought Rosetta was fantastic. This one for me topped it.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Okay. That is that's a all the marks. High marks. Brilliant. This episode was written by Carol Jarrow, who has been on various other Star Trek Discovery episodes in the past. Directed by Olatunde Osunsanmi, who is pretty much Trek royalty at this point. I think this is probably maybe the 6th or 7th episode overall that he's directed. And I know that Alex Kurtzman, the executive producer and showrunner for all the Trek stuff, has kind of brought him further into the fold, working on Discovery. He's been working with Michelle Paradise, who's also the showrunner on Star Trek Discovery. So he's got a firm grasp on the direction, on the style, on the sound, visual, everything that Star Trek Discovery has a lot of Osun Sami's handprints on it. His DNA is all over the place. And it shows, it works because the character growth here that we see in not just Burnham or Saru, but also in our supporting ensemble cast with the bridge crew coming in to help solve the problem. I love that kind of stuff. And it really shows. Ian and I have talked about it in the past. We've been highlighting it. This season has brought those characters more to the forefront. We know more about Detmer than we ever have. We know more about, oh wow, Awashikon than we ever have. It's great. And like you, I loved this episode. I've got like maybe one or two small things, small, super tiny, minuscule, doesn't even show up on the sensors, right? But we're going to talk about it because that's what podcasting is all about. That's what we are here for. So, Luke, without further ado, let's jump into this episode. Species 10C. The DMA is approaching Earth and Navarre. It's in the Alpha Quadrant. It could happen at any time. The DMA is mining boronite inside the Alpha Quadrant, and it's a 5 light year gravitational dark matter anomaly. It's just sucking everything up inside of it. Our Captain Burnham and the Starship Discovery has a crew of diplomatic delegates off to make first contact with this species. We know nothing about them. We went to a planet in the previous episode. We learned so much more about this species. They suffered an immense catastrophe, and they've lost so much. They know pain. They know how to communicate it. We have learned how species 10C communicates through their olfactory senses, as well as another thing that we're going to learn about in this episode. But for me, Luke, what astounded me about this is that this is perfect science fiction in a way that Star Trek sometimes doesn't always do.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you go back to the original mission statement of Star Trek, to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and civilization, this is the mission statement of this episode. It
Oh
really
yeah.
is, and it's Star Trek 101, and it's all about cultural exchange. It's about building bridges to different languages and different complexities, and using universal ciphers to try and find a similarity between two what they look like completely different species in terms of the way they think, the way they emote. So I mean that's a strong trope that's used in a lot of science fiction. It's usually used very, very well, and I think the writers have used this tool to a very effective use on this episode. And it's really what it's done, and this is why I think this is one of my favorite episodes. What it's done is it's made all the characters in play in this episode have urgency and have purpose. They all have their different roles to play in this episode. It's not just Burnham coming up with everything and being the hero, which has frustrated me in the past, because all it's done is let the other characters just be bystanders to her brilliance.
Yes.
And that's frustrated me sometimes. This episode, everyone has a part to play. Everyone has a moment where their input is critical to the mission success. And that's, for me, is fantastic writing to start with, and just makes the drama of Star Trek Discovery really engaging to watch.
Yeah, really well said. So at the outset of this episode, it's set up. We have the hyperfield. We are going to the hyperfield. We are going to make first contact. Previous episodes in Star Trek surrounding first contact, you have, of course, Darmok, which is Star Trek: The Next Generation, classic episode where Picard meets a Tamarian, where they only speak in metaphors and basically meme language. They just use meme language. When the walls fell, Shaka, his eyes uncovered, and learning how to communicate. That was Picard's challenge. How do we speak to someone who does not, who can't even comprehend our communication style? And there's a great infographic. I'm going to drop it in the chat so you can have a look at it. Maybe you've seen it. But I always think about this when we talk about science fiction. Math, math, math is the king, because everything is built surrounding math. It's a universal language. I also think music is a universal language. But math is where you have to start. You have to be able to quantify and qualify the items and images around you. And Star Trek Discovery, I think, for the first time in Star Trek's history, has kind of removed all the technobabble and put in real science.
Yeah. This, I mean, again, it's another reason why I really engage with this episode, because, and a great example is when they bring in Detmer, Nilsson, and Christopher onto the debate, and they all use real world analogies, real world analogs to help understand this unknown problem. So you have Nilsson talking about piano, where music comes into play, because music is maths. Music is literally maths in this beautiful arrangements that make chords and melodies. And I love the fact that they bring that piano, and a piano note has a certain emotion attached to it, but it also has a kind of mathematical quality to it as well. And then Detmer talks about the lights being their way of communication. So it's these real world approaches help the viewer engage with the problem, rather than just having all this techno babble where you just sat back going, I don't know what they're saying, but we do know what they're saying. And they're really working through this problem with something that's very important in science, which is critical thinking. Critical thinking is the foundation of understanding anything.
Yes.
Because you interrogate it, you repeat test it, and you analyze it over and over again until you get it right. And that's what these guys are doing. They're attempting these things, and having that real world approach just made all this communication stuff with species 10C really exciting and really thoughtful.
Yeah, it's Burnham mentions METI, which is a real Earth 21st century, our current timeline, a real thing. It's there, it exists. And the idea behind using math as the instrument of speech, like I said earlier, like they said in the episode, it's the very first foundation to making that first contact. We have also seen this in the film Arrival, and I couldn't help but think about that film when I was watching this episode. There are a lot of similarities. This episode, Species 10C, when we meet the 10C, we can't really get a sense of who they are or what they look like, what they are. It's all very vague and very undefinable, and on purpose. And it felt so wondrous and
Mm,
inspiring when you see the crew walk into the shuttle bay to look through the open shuttle doors and to view out the species 10C. You get this sense of scale. You get the
yeah.
sense of world building that Star Trek has always aspired to, but hasn't always necessarily accomplished when showcasing truly alien cultures. And yeah, don't get me wrong, Luke. Of course, production and budget limitations, costuming, the type of story they want to tell, it all makes it very difficult to have, episode after episode of, massive scale aliens. But this is this is the stuff that will make Star Trek Discovery legendary in the franchise.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's great that we've got this, as you say, this truly alien species that doesn't really have any form or shape that we can see. For all we know, it could be hundreds of different life forms all coming together to make
Yeah.
these lights, and not just one being. Um, I read a lot of science fiction as well, and it's interesting because I think giving aliens humanoid forms, which Star Trek
Mm,
does a lot, I think it's a good way of us, the readers or the viewers, to relate to these alien beings. I think having them as a very abstract form can sometimes be hard to connect with them. I think how they're doing it here with the hydrocarbons representing certain emotions, human
mm.
emotions or universal emotions, I think is a very clever way of kind of stepping through that abstractness that this alien has. So it's really interesting when to use humanoid form aliens and when not to, and how to kind of break the barriers of of um, of of helping the viewer or the reader kind of engage and understand that being. So I find it a very interesting concept. And again, I think the writers here have done a really good job of helping us step into the mind of this very weird abstract alien.
Yeah, and they're so weird and they're so abstract, and we have to talk to them. And what I loved about this episode was it gave us an opportunity that, hey, the universal translator is no good. We have to throw it away. And we have to go back to basics. And so we have Admiral Harai, a xenolinguistics expert, on board as part of the delegation to help with the communication with species 10C. And there's this beautiful sequence, we've been talking about the scene in general, where they're first learning how to communicate, what hydrocarbon is associated with which emotion, what language barrier do we have to cross. They have the lights. The species 10C, when they first show up, they flash these lights. And what do these lights mean? So we have to superimpose that light sequence over the hydrocarbons. And
Mm,
then we get to understand a little bit more about what species 10C is trying to say and how we communicate with them. And in the background, there's a ticking clock. I gotta say, this is one of my small complaints about the episode. This ticking clock, this countdown. You've got the DMA basically doing its thing in the Alpha Quadrant, putting Navarre and Earth under threat. So that's where this tension is coming from.
mm,
And as a small complaint, I don't think we need that tension. The tension is already built in the episode.
yeah. Yeah, no, I
How
completely
did
agree.
how did you feel about General Ndoye, the delegate from Earth? Her whole thing is like, Earth is my home. It's our home. It's the seat of humanity in the universe. It's under threat right now. We have to protect it at all costs. And, one of my small complaints here is due to that ticking clock, General Ndoye is basically saying, we need to destroy the DMA now. And she sides with Booker and Tarka, who we're going to talk about in a little bit, in terms of getting rid of the DMA. She's kind of partnered with them. She's feeding them information through a back channel. And that, I was so frustrated. I was so frustrated by that character choice, by that kind of
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void were prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Artificial tension built in with that ticking clock. How did you feel about it?
It's a funny one, Ndoye. But you're right about there's no need for this artificial tension with the ticking clock, because you're right, there is tension in the episode anyway. And I think a lot of that, on a side note, is to do with the direction, because there's a lot of tight shots to faces, especially in the opening scenes. It was all really tight shots, and it was all handheld camera, or the camera was moving. It was never static. And I think that really lends itself to the tension of the episode.
Yeah, for sure.
But going back to Ndoye, it's interesting because I remember when we first met her last season, Earth was obviously under a very militaristic governance. And she is naturally a fighter. She's naturally almost warlike. And I think her reaction to anything would be in a defensive or an aggressive posture rather than a diplomatic one. So I think that lends itself a little bit to her motives in this episode. But I did find it a little frustrating. And I especially in the point where Tarka basically says that she has to hack into the computers, isn't she? The ship's computer, so they can drain the plasma from the
nacelle,
thing.
yeah.
And at that point, I'm thinking, do you know, would the character do that? Would the character really do treason at this point?
Yeah.
And that for me, I don't know. That for me, I think is a little niggle, and I just think that choice is a bit extreme.
Sure.
Because she's happy, or she's comfortable feeding information to them, but the point where she's actually asked to violate some kind of directive, such, you know, hack into the ship, that's when it gets a bit too extreme for me. And maybe that was a little bit of an extreme choice to make that character do.
Yeah. Sabotage on board the Discovery by a top delegate who's on this mission of first contact outside the galactic barrier with an extragalactic alien species whose technological advancements are literally hundreds of thousands of light years beyond what the Federation has currently. And so for General Ndoye to lack the foresight, to lack the ability to critically think about the actions that this saboteur team she's siding herself with just feels outside the scope of what that character would actually do. So definitely frustrating for me as a viewer. And I also understand, like, you know, there has to be some kind of dramatic element inside that diplomatic delegation. I just don't think that the character would have gone all that way with treason. And I am glad that General Ndoye actually, like, acknowledges it, like, oh my god, you know, you're asking me to commit treason, and gets to a point where, you know, as she's inputting the code to vent the plasma from the nacelle, is very clearly conflicted by the actions that she is taking. So I'm glad it's acknowledged, and I'm glad it's there, and it says something to General Ndoye's character, not just in universe, but also her moralistic character as well.
Yeah, and it does play into the theme that runs through Tarka and Book Story, which is that pain and fear blinds us, and it kind of gives us tunnel vision. So, you know, she's terrified for the fate of Earth and the people down there. So I can understand from a thematic perspective that this is something that, it's an extreme situation that Earth's in, so she'd employ extreme actions. But it was a little frustrating because I think from a narrative and character point of view, it's a little extreme, but it works
Yeah.
thematically.
Yeah, so Admiral Harai is our xenolinguistics expert. And an additional complaint that I had with this particular episode, small one, is that I know that Captain Burnham has a background in alien xenolinguistics, but if Admiral Harai is the expert specifically brought along, the fact that some lines and some insights and ideas surrounding how do we move forward, how do we communicate with 10C comes from Burnham and not from Harai. Like, I felt like it would have been really good to showcase this character, give him more dialogue, give him more agency, and let him be the expert that he is. One thing that bothers me about TV shows in general, movies, and especially in real life is when people have jobs and they aren't given the opportunity to do them or are allowed to do them because someone else in the room wants to take that. They want to take it. Whether in a TV or movie, it's to drive the plot. But in real life, it sucks. Like, I've been on the end where someone has kind of tried to do my job in front of me, and they either do it and then I'm like, well, I didn't get the opportunity to do my job, so why was I even here? That kind of sucks. And at the other point, it's like, if they do it wrong, well, I was here to do this job, you did it wrong, now I have to clean up after you.
Yeah, I know exactly where you're coming from, and I mentioned earlier that it is a frustration that the writers sometimes give Burnham, they give Burnham the glory for an idea or an
Yeah.
action, and they have done that in the past a bit too much. Doesn't happen so much in this episode, but I do agree with you that Admiral Harai, I think, should have had the kind of the win for that one, because it makes sense due to his job. I mean, they've got this cabal of people. They've got a captain, they've got a politician, they've got General Day, so, all these perspectives that are very important. And if someone keeps coming in and nicking all the perspectives, then what's the point in the other people being there? So
Exactly.
it does get frustrating. I do think they're better at it this episode than they have been in the past. I think last week I mentioned off air on our Discord group when Burnham comes up with the idea of what the dust is on the planet, and I think that line should have gone to Saru, because I think Saru was a better person to kind of figure that out. But yeah, I think the writers they do fall back on that sometimes. But I think this episode, I think Harai gets some really good moments. I love the bit where he starts talking about, there's more A's here than there are there, so the B must mean more than. So, his strengths are definitely coming through. But yeah, they do slip up just in that little bit you were talking about, definitely.
Yeah, I like the depiction of the tricorder that Harai has, and
Yes.
I've always loved the tech in science fiction. That's part of the reasons that I'm drawn to it. And Star Trek Discovery, one of the things that I've always pushed about in going too far into the future was that how can we in the 21st century? So in the 60s, they were able to hypothesize communicators. They were able to hypothesize starships and bridges and how this technology work. And then in the 80s and 90s, you saw the evolution of that. And now we're in 2022, and we have the technology of the 60s, the 80s, and 90s. We have iPads and tablets and cell phones and satellite networks. So how can we depict it? Can Star Trek logically portray future technology that feels like a true evolution without just turning into pure magic? And I like how Discovery has done it throughout season 3 and season 4. It feels like true evolution of technology through nanotech and quantum tech and all these cool little bits of information that I'm not smart enough to pick apart. But I really love the visual of the tricorder opening up. You've got Harai massively working through these language problems, through these math problems, and it all happens in the blink of an eye. And in the background, Luke, we have Zora helping out and coming in with the assist. Zora got a lot of action in this episode, so let's talk about her for a moment.
Yeah, something I really liked at the top of the episode, and this also added to this foreboding tension that this episode has, is that Zora mentions that something's wrong. She can't quite put a finger on it. She can't quite figure
Yes.
out what it is, but there's something wrong. And I like that because that adds more tension to the episode, more mystery, more intrigue. We know something's wrong. We know that it's obviously Tarka's thing
Yes.
that he's installed in there, but the characters don't know, and that's great. And I love that kind of mystery where kind of we know what it is and the characters have to discover it. That then gives later on in the episode, that gives Hugh and Adira purpose and motivation in the episode because they're trying to figure out where Tig Navarro's character,
Jett Reno.
Reno, thank you. Yeah, so they're trying to figure out where Reno is. We'll get to Reno later because for me, MVP of the episode. So Zora really gets to kind of join in on the kind of breaking down the cipher, understanding what to do, and giving them reasons to do it. And I really like her interactions with Hugh as well, and working through her problems through that game that they play.
Yeah, the Trill game. Yeah,
the Trill game, which I really like because it's that old kind of human adage where if you're distracted by something, what's actually bothering you might pop to the out of your subconscious into your conscious, and you'll figure it out. So I really like that kind of psychological aspect to it, and it really shows Hugh's brilliance as a doctor as well.
Yes. Yeah, I liked how there were concurrent storylines all happening all at once. And one thing that I think TV shows in general struggle with is showing elapsed time when we see things happen linearly. So from our perspective, things seem to happen one after the other. So when we view it on TV, action A impacts action B, which then leads into action C. But the reality is that A and B might be happening at the exact same time. We're just catching up. So we're actually, from a viewer standpoint, stay with me here, we go back in time to talk about what's going on while the main thing is still happening. So does that kind of make sense? Are you with me?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, if you want to use another example, if anyone's ever read Lord of the Rings, in the film, they intercut a lot of what's going on together. In Lord of the Rings, you have huge chunks of the book where you just follow Frodo and Sam for ages.
Yeah.
Then you go back in time and then you follow Aragorn and Gimli and Legolas for ages. So there's big chunks. And what that does is that it means that you as an audience member don't know what's going on with the other people and you're itching to get back to what they're doing. So it gives the episode agency, it gives it forward momentum. So that's a really good way of structuring an episode of television because it works in books and if done correctly and done right, it works in TV as well.
That's right. And I feel like this episode did a good job of showing us what's happening in different areas of the ship with these different characters. And with Zora specifically, I'm thinking to myself, Zora's working on this massive language algorithm and trying to determine how do we speak with species 10C. And at the same time, she's also with Hugh and Adira and trying to, number one, find Jett Reno, and also, number two, figure out what the heck is going on with me. Why does something, quote, feel off? And we, as viewers, know that it's Book and Tarka. They have a little sensor inhibitor inside engineering, which is hiding that one spot on the ship where their Book's cloaked vessel is attached. So it's all kind of intertwined and coming together. And I really like how Zora, as a sentient AI on board the starship, can be in 3 different places at once, working on 3 separate problems at once. I thought that was a really cool touch.
Yeah.
They didn't linger on this. They didn't say like, "Oh, look at Zora. Look at how smart she is. She's doing 100 things at once." It was there and they just did it. And that's really good, I think.
It's great sci-fi. Have you ever read a book called Ancillary Justice?
I have not, but my wife has. It's a great.
Yeah.
She raves about it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fantastic book, and it the main character is an AI character who's now in a body, but used to be a ship. And you have flashbacks in the novel to when the AI was a ship, but you have different versions of them because they're in 5 places at the same time, and you kind of hop between the same AI, but they're in different places, or they might be in a robot's body, or they might be
Mm-hmm.
in. So it's a really great sci-fi concept, and it works with Zora really well. It just enhances the fact that this ship is an AI, and it can be in several places at once. It can split its consciousness. It can kind of segregate different problems into different parts of its circuitry, and it's a really, really great sci-fi concept that works really well with the evolution of Zora.
Yeah, another book that does it really well. It's a decently medium length read. The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers.
Love it.
Yeah, there's an AI character there as well who goes through a lot of growth and development that we follow, and she's attached to the ship, but as the story plays out, she I'm not going to spoil it, but there's a lot of really good intertwining AI storyline, and it's a lighthearted read. If you want something a little heavier, folks, you can always go to the Culture series by Ian M. Banks. That is a very heavy sci-fi where the Culture series has ship AI that have massively outclassed the need for having people on board them. And it's really interesting when AI actually does interact with us pathetic carbon-based life forms. Yeah, it's really good, and I love how Star Trek is incorporating some of these, more heavier science fiction type storylines into its own ethos. It works. Star Trek has always touched on AI. They've, for the most part, it's been, computers are going to turn violent. They're going to turn angry. So let's not have artificial intelligence. Let's
Yeah.
just avoid it altogether. Data is an exception to the rule because, of course, then we have lore, who is, the exact example of why you don't want to create it. You've got the whole control arc in season 2 of Discovery, where sentient AI turns into, oh, we need to protect life. Well, in order to protect life, we have to destroy it because life is what kills life. Yeah, it's logic problems.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's talk about Book and Tarka. We're going to pivot a little bit here because what is going on with Book and Tarka, I actually found to be, this isn't a complaint. I think it's clever writing. In the previous few episodes, Tarka became a little sympathetic. Like I was like, okay, I hear you, man. Like I get it. You are trying to get back to your best friend. Is Oros a lover? Is there a gay arc tendency there? I know that theory has been postulated by the community as well. And no matter how you look at it, if they are in love, or if it's a father-son type relationship, or if it's a true brotherly relationship that they have formulated over their time working together, be that as it may, like I can see it. It's two people, they connect on an intimate level, and Tarka just wants to get back to his friend. So he wants to go home. He wants to find it. Is it also that Tarka was inspired by the idea of this massive power generation teleportation device, and that struck his villainesque tendency, and he wanted to follow up on that because he views it as the ultimate power? Maybe that could be, but I didn't believe that 2 or 3 episodes ago. So in this episode, when Tarka takes that turn back towards, no, never mind, I am a single-minded goal, and that is to capture the power source and use it for my own gain, I did not care for that turn. How did you feel about it?
I'm okay with it. Just going back to Tarka and Oros, their relationship reminded me a little bit. Their kind of closeness and camaraderie reminded me a little bit of Andy Dufresne and Red from The Shawshank Redemption. So when you spend prison with people, not that I know, I've got no experience of it, but
I was about to ask.
Yeah, but watching, in Shawshank Redemption, they form a very, very close bond, and it isn't romantic or anything, but it's a very, very close bond, and they become brothers, I think, on more levels than they usually is. So maybe there's that element to that relationship. But yeah, Tarka kind of turning again. I think Reno explains this very well, and I think Reno really exposes what Tarka's problem is, which is that he's so focused, he's so in pain.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
That he's focused on this one task, that anything else that happens outside that tunnel vision that he has is disposable. It doesn't matter. He doesn't care about it. He has no empathy for anything outside of that.
Yep.
And when Reno basically talks about how her wife died and she was trying to save that ensign who was badly burned, and she realized that she was only doing it for her own selfish need because she saw her wife in his eyes, the same colored eyes.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what film it's from or if it's a saying, but it's motives are rarely selfless. And I think this really applies to Tarka, where his ultimate goal is very selfish, and he either doesn't care or he doesn't think, it doesn't even compute in his mind what the collateral damage around it is going to be. He just wants to achieve his goal. So I don't see it as a kind of table flip, really, from what's happened in the previous episodes. I see it as a slow table turn to Tarka's true nature, and that he is a very single-minded individual who will get what he wants no matter what happens.
Yeah, that's a good point. You mentioned that pain and fear leads to that tunnel vision, and there's a lot of pain and fear that Tarka is struggling with, and Booker as well. He's dealing with his own pain and fear. His planet was completely wiped out by the DMA, but he now has more information. Tying it to our modern era for a second, because that's what Star Trek is. It's a mirror at our modern discourse. Science can change. The facts that we know today may change tomorrow based on new information that we learn. And so humans are adaptable. We're not meant to do one thing forever. We're supposed to do different things. We're supposed to learn. We're supposed to grow and evolve and not be so stuck in our ways. So Booker acting as the stuck in his way. I'm stuck in my pain. I'm stuck in my grief. And I need to destroy the DMA. That is my goal. I need to protect my people. And my people is now the Federation, because my own people have been lost and I don't want that to happen to anybody else. So the new information that we receive from our previous episode is that the 10C understand pain. They have empathy. They can communicate. So we have to give Discovery a chance. We have to give them the opportunity to find a way. Yes, we want to protect Earth. We want to protect Navarre. So we've partnered with General Ndoye to get that back channel of information. But that back channel of information is proving to us that we are proceeding in a holistic, professional manner in First Contact. Is it going at a pace that we like? Tarka doesn't think so. He needs to destroy the DMA. The clock is ticking. It's now or never. And the progress that we're making on the word Discovery isn't fast enough. So I think Booker evolving and understanding, okay, this is actually working. We have our nuclear option, which if the clock ticks all the way down, we can destroy the DMA and then we'll do that. So yes, Tarka, continue with your plan, but we have to give Discovery a chance. And I like that evolution. I like that character shift, because there's no way that Booker would just be against Burnham. He would not go against Starfleet. He knows how much it actually means, but he's blinded by his own pain. He's blinded by his own fear until here he understands that Tarka, no, this is his nuclear option is not just a nuclear option. It is literally going to kill everybody and everything. And what the heck, Tarka? You have this mathematical equation. You can destroy the DMA. But that means you're going to destroy the hyperfield, which means you're going to destroy all of us. And that means there's going to be a gravitational void that will take however long it's going to take. And his answer, oh yeah, you guys will figure something out. I'm sure the Federation will figure out how to stop it before it actually happens. So you're trading one crisis by kicking a can down the road for yet another crisis that another generation will have to solve. And look at our modern era where we keep kicking down one crisis of climate change. We kicked it down the road through the 80s and 90s and the 2000s. And now, in the 20 teens, it's like, hey guys, we need to get cracking right now, right now. Nothing's happened. Nothing continues to happen. And a DMA of our own making is now approaching faster than we've ever seen. I think it's the year 2030 is the point of no return, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a certain generation of people that have come to the conclusion that their thought process is, well, I'm not going to be around when the stuff goes down. Yeah. I'm not going to be here to experience the crap. And that kind of selfish view that I'm not going to be here to experience that terrible thing is exactly what Tarka's thinking. I'm not going to be around when the repercussions hit Earth and hit Navarre. So I don't care because I'm not going to be here. And it's that tunnel vision. It's that one singular focus that he has. Anything outside that he doesn't care about. And that's a really good real world analogy whereby we are just killing time, really.
Yeah.
And our governance is a giving us pretend fixes when they're really not. And that made me think about Tarka's
motivations,
his functional flows that he shows the functional flows to Book, because he knows that Book's not going to understand that, so he can deceive him and kind of worm his way out of it when he knows that looking at his equations, looking at his functional flows, that it's going to have some serious consequences. But because Book doesn't understand the maths, doesn't understand the equations, which is where Reno's character has a vital role to play in this episode, because she looks at those functional flows and she knows exactly what they mean. And it's great that we've got Tig Navarro. She's popped in and out when the actress is available. She's been there for a bit of light comic relief, and it's just great that in the past 2 episodes she's had a real critical role to play in this storyline. It's been great.
Yeah, I love it. Tig Notaro came in season 3 season 2 as a guest star, and was it season 2? Yeah, right. The Hiawatha. Yeah.
Yeah.
And popped in and out, random episodes here and there, but quickly became like the fan favorite of the ship. And just Tig's deadpan delivery, her comedic timing, the energy, like everything just perfect, right? And so I think a lot of people, myself included, have been like, hey, let's give Jett Reno, she's a wonderful, brilliant engineer, let's give her some agency, give her like some meat to dig into. And like you said, the film schedule, it lands where it lands. We bring Tig in when we can, but by giving Jett Reno this instrumental, critical moment with Booker and Tarka, where she's looking over Tarka's shoulder at those functional flow diagrams while she's inside in the brig in the hollow field. It really worked well, and by giving us the characterization of what Jett Reno went through and how she wound up on the Hiawatha during the Klingon War, and trying to save that ensign and trying to keeping that ensign alive for 7 days before he finally dies anyway. That tragic moment, that need, that drive, that that motivation to win at all costs. And what does it actually cost you? Well, Jett knows what it costs. She knows firsthand and is dealing with that repercussion. There's a wonderful moment where she asked for the black licorice, and I remember my wife and I were like, "Oh my god! Like, of all the things you could ask for," but then she sticks that black licorice inside the little communications pot, and it's like, oh, just enough jolt of electricity to make this little guy work. That's that engineering. That's that
It's the
real
glycerin, isn't
world.
it? In the
Yeah, the
black licorice,
real
yeah.
world science and math. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, like, if this were Star Trek Voyager, you'd have Harry Kim, rigging up some wild, out of this world device, and it would be hand waved as like, oh yeah, some kind of electromagnetic pulse, you know.
Mm.
But here in Discovery, one thing I take issue with people on the Twitter feeds or on the internet in general, the trolls, is they pick it apart and they say, oh, the writers are lazy, they don't care, they don't care about canon, they don't care about this, they don't care about what it actually means. But then you dive in and you look at what the writers are actually doing, and it's so, like, so detailed and authentic and grounded in reality in ways that Star Trek hasn't been.
Grounded. That's the word that I think is great for this episode, because as we've previously discussed, using real world analogs to help the characters understand what's going on and stuff. I find that more engaging, more entertaining than stringing off lines of technobabble and
Yeah.
coming up with this super hyperbleem quasi blah blah blah, and it's like, well, that means nothing to me. But using glycerin as an electrical conductor, that means something to me. That's like a kind of real world analogy. So, I just think it just draws you into the drama a bit more, and I really appreciate that about the writers of Discovery.
Yeah, and like you mentioned earlier, it also added to the real tension in the episode. It was there naturally, just by the sake of the situations that the characters were in. Correct me if I'm wrong, but no phasers were fired in the making of
No.
this episode.
Nope.
And that is something that I know a lot of folks have kind of taken issue with some, with modern Star Trek, if you will. It's the over reliance on action, the over reliance on, shooting the pew pew. And in this episode, much like others in the past, there's no phasers firing. It's all about, what is the diplomatic solution? What is the science solution? The engineering or the math solution? I gotta say, like, Star Trek Discovery feels almost like a STEM commercial in some ways.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's digging into the ethos of Star Trek, isn't it? It really is.
It really is.
Which is seeking out new life forms, understanding them, cultural exchange. Building a bridge of understanding between two different peoples, and this bridge language that they create. By the way, I love the representation of them going onto the bridge, representation of the bridge to use their bridge language. Loved it.
That was brilliant. And I wanted
Yeah.
to ask you, we get this egg that floats into the shuttle bay in the final act. This egg floats in and it's seamless. It's completely, there's nothing there. And then all of a sudden it just opens and presents a corridor. And my monkey brain, my viewer brain is like, hey, that's just a shuttle. Like, the 10C aren't that advanced. And I started to get a little bummed. I was like, oh, it's just a regular shuttle, it just looks cool on the outside. And then you walk in and we learn that, oh no, this is basically a holodeck. That's how we can explain it. It's a holodeck.
Yeah.
And it's the image of a bridge, so that way the crew of Discovery and the delegates are familiar with it. They are in a comfortable place where they can communicate with species 10C, but at the same time, it's literally a bridge. And like you mentioned, they're trying to bridge that gap. Oh, the symmetry. Oh, I love it.
Yeah, I was really, really impressed with that. I really enjoyed it.
It was really good stuff. at this point in time, that's when General Ndoye ignites the plasma in the nacelle, and it causes just enough damage, and it enables Tarka to put into place his plan where he busts out of this bubble that the species 10C had put the Discovery in, which, by the way, we didn't touch on that at the outset of the episode in the very beginning. When the Starship Discovery arrives at the hyperfield, they're knocking on the door, there's no answer, and then they send the dots out with the hydrocarbons and they say, "We come in peace," kind of a situation. Then the hyperfield kind of opens, it grabs the Discovery in this crazy cyclone kind of a way and puts it inside of a bubble, right? And this bubble brings them inside the hyperfield, and in my view protects the Discovery from this alien environment that they found themselves in. What did you think of this molecule situation? What did you think of the Discovery being brought into the hyperfield in that way? And if you were on the bridge of the ship, how would you react?
This concept reminded me a lot of the aliens in The Abyss, where they manipulate water. So when the water tentacle comes into the drill platform in The Abyss, they kind of question whether it's the alien, and then they kind of figure out it's not the alien, but the alien's been able to manipulate the molecules of water to communicate with us. And the way those kind of tentacles come out, I think is their manipulation of whatever energy or whatever substance that this orb is made of. So as you said, it's a protection thing, I think, and bringing them inside that orb, it just creates this environment and space where they can basically try to understand each other without any kind of exterior stuff harming them or getting in the way or anything. So it's all part of that communication process, I think, in the end of it.
Yeah.
And how they can manipulate the different energies and different substances, I think, is just testament to how weird and abstract and alien this species 10 is. So I really enjoyed it, and I think their initial fear about this tentacle coming out was warranted because it was immediate red alert, shields up, what the hell's going on? So I completely understand that reaction. But then they kind of, they then calm down. They go, right, let's assess the situation. We're inside this orb. Let's figure out what it is, what it's made of, how we get out of it. So, the initial reaction of fear is then replaced by curiosity and understanding.
Yeah, which brought me to a place in Star Trek The Next Generation has often been referred to as, quote, competence porn, unquote, where we're watching people who are the best at what they do continue to excel at their jobs. And I thought to myself, well, watching the sequence, same thing. This is an entirely competent crew excelling at their job, using science, using math, and determining what the situation is before taking any type of decisive action. Like, they're really getting all their facts straight first. It's such a delicate situation.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, if I were in that position, I would probably have a little bit more of a defensive posture, and maybe Kirk would do the same thing. It'd be shields up, and they wouldn't be so cool with having the Enterprise be sucked into this portal, and it would be a little bit more of an aggressive posture. And then Kirk would solve the day by doing a double-handed punch on the back of the 10C, and then he would spout up something about Western colonial values and freedom.
And then quote Peter Pan probably at the end as well.
Oh, a little bit there. But yeah, such good stuff. This episode, we also got a cameo from Grudge.
Yeah.
That was awesome. He didn't like it. There was a whole scene where Burnham talks to Saru, and you've got Papa Saru, helping Burnham to, hey, vent some of your frustrations. You're in a brand new, unknown situation, and you've been keeping it all inside. Just scream.
Yeah, I really appreciated this scene because I like it when Burnham has no control over what's going on. I like it when she's fallible. I like it when she's worried and she's she's got doubts, and it makes her much more. It makes her more relatable. It makes her much more of a human person, not a superhero. So I really appreciated this scene. I really the yelling bit. One side of my head was going, I liked it. It's kind of a base human emotion to when you're bottling up a lot of mixed emotions, just to kind of yell out is a great release. I also find it a little cringy at the same time.
Yeah.
But I appreciated the scene, and I appreciated the interaction between Burnham and Saru, and this relationship that they've got is really quite beautiful, actually. And I've really enjoyed watching these two evolve, particularly when you think about where they came from season one, and how opposed they were to each other and how different they were. And it's really nice to see how the writers have evolved that over the season. So yeah, I really appreciate that scene. I really like seeing Burnham as a fallible human being. I think it makes her a very engaging character when they do that.
Hey guys, it is Ryan. I'm not sure if you know this about me, but I'm a bit of a fun fanatic when I can. I like to work, but I like fun too. It's a thing. And now the truth is out there. I can tell you about my favorite place to have fun. Chumba Casino. They have hundreds of social casino style games to choose from with new games released each week. You can play for free anytime, anywhere. And each day brings a new chance to collect daily bonuses. So join me in the fun. Sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Yeah, it's good that they put Burnham in that scene, and I'll agree with you. Yeah, it's a little cringy to watch because when you're on the outside of it, you're just like, what? Like, that's crazy. But if you've ever been in that position where you've just bottled things up and you have no control, I remember a very long time ago, a very personal moment where I had to put down my dog. He had a brain tumor, and he was only 2.5 years old, and it was incredibly depressing. And I had no control over the situation. And in my grief, all I could do was scream, just scream, and that was it. And it helps release that emotion, that tension, and just like the oldest word in the English language, fuck. It feels good to shout it when you stub your toe, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, scream. It's good. Luke, the final scene. We're gonna pivot now. We talked about a lot in this episode, but we went back and we talked about the opening, and now we're gonna go right back to the end here. Booker's ship escapes from the Discovery, and they bounce off of the Discovery with that reverse tractor beam to give them the push to get outside of this bubble field that the Tensi have created around the Discovery. They've been able to punch through it because the plasma helped weaken the field. And so they're outside. Discovery cannot chase. They cannot go in pursuit. And so Species 10C immediately shuts down the communications and immediately deposits Burnham and the delegation back onto Discovery to deal with the ramifications of the situation. And we learn from Jett Reno, who's able to drop this communication into Discovery to say, hey, this is what Tarka's planning to do. You have to stop us at all costs. So, Luke, your theories on the finale. What do you think may happen? Because that's a little bit of a dangle. It's dangling out there. Stop us at all costs.
Yeah. By the way, I really love that camera spin at the end where you zoom into Burnham's face, the last shot where the camera kind of zooms in, and that's really effective because the weight of what she might have to do has landed on her quite heavily. I don't think the writers have it in them to kill off Book or Tig.
Okay.
I don't know whether Tarka is going to survive or not. Do you know what? I really, really don't know. I really don't know what's going to happen in the finale, and I kind of like that. I kind of like that there's no predictability to it, other than I don't think Book or I keep calling him Tig.
Jett Reno.
Jett Reno. I don't think those two are going to die. I think they're going to somehow make a a result where they both live. Tarka, I don't know. Tarka's a 50-50 whether or not he'll survive or not. The whole thing with the 10C species, they're going to have to really do something quickly to show that they are not an aggressive species and that they don't cause any harm. And they've still got to stop the DMA. I think, what is it, 4 hours left until the DMA hits Earth and Navarre. So yeah, there is a ticking clock, as there has been for a few of the episodes now, with the DMA approaching Earth and Navarre. Whether that will be a plus or a negative to the structure and the pacing of the last episode, there's a lot to pack in. A lot to pack in for the last 50 minutes. So yeah, I'm apprehensive, but the last 2 episodes have been really, really good. So I'm really hoping for a great finale.
Yeah, same. I'm going into this with great expectations. So I will say, I alluded to this earlier, that my theory is if they do it, if they kill Booker and Reno, that will show to me that this show has really grown up and really like taken the next step into being that kind of Game of Thrones esque, Breaking Bad esque, Sopranos, like that level of show. And I think it would be brave. I think it would be thrilling. And, we would lament the loss of these characters graciously, because we've had so much time, as opposed to, hey, here's Commander Ariam and here's her whole backstory in the first 10 minutes of the episode, and then in the last 10 minutes we're going to kill her. It showcases to me that the show has truly landed on its feet and we're willing to take these big risks with our characters. That said, I kind of agree with you. I don't think that the writers really have it in them. I think that the chemistry between David Ajala and Sonequa Martin Green is just outstanding. I truly believe them when they're on screen, and I feel for them. Tig Notaro has been such a great addition to the cast that, yes, she's only there when she can be due to the filming schedule, when it overlaps, et cetera, et cetera. So, is it plausible that they would make her the ultimate sacrifice? Yes. But yeah, same. I wouldn't want to lose that character. And Sean Doyle playing Tarka has been a great addition. And much like Janet Kidder from season 3, she played Osira.
Yes, yeah,
if I remember the name correctly. Her role was so good that I was so bummed out when they killed off Osira, because she would have added another layer of tension to the Emerald Chain storyline, especially since we've touched on it here and there throughout this season. There's been little, we haven't ignored the fact that last season happened, right? So to bring Osira back almost in that Gold Dukat type of villain way would have been really cool. So will they kill Tarka? More than likely. I think he has low odds of survival in the finale. But I think it would be interesting to kind of keep him around. I do think he's a layered villain for this season. He's not a true villain in the way that some others have been. But he's a bad guy at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's been a villain with particularly good depth this season. I think I really enjoyed his character. It took me a while. He plays a character in The Expanse, and he plays a particularly nasty, slimy piece of shit. So it took me a while to separate that, because that's the character I know the actor from the most. But I really enjoyed the character of Tarka, and I do think they've added as much depth as they can with the character. Going back to if they kill Book off, I think if they had the guts to do that, and I think you'd be right, I think it would show a maturity in the writing. But I think what it would really do is it would actually give Burnham her true Kobayashi Maru. Because in that first episode, we lost someone, but we lost a character who was introduced in that episode. So it didn't really have the emotional impact that it should have had. But maybe they're saving it for the finale, for the real Kobayashi Maru, the real situation that she cannot win.
Ooh, that's okay. That's an amazing observation. We don't have a name. Do we have a name for the
We
finale
don't.
yet?
I've
Okay.
looked on Memory Alpha and Wikipedia, and there's not there is
Okay.
not a episode title yet.
All right. I'm gonna Google it while we're chatting. Season 4 finale. Okay. Let's see. Bop, 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 bop. I'm not seeing anything on a title as of yet. Oh boy. But yeah, I think you may have landed on something. If this whole season is Burnham's Kobayashi Maru, that would be something else.
Mm.
And yeah, you're right. It would be pretty impressive if they went that route.
Yeah. I'd be
Luke,
sad to see a David Ajala go because he's been the MVP for this
oh my
season. He's been
God.
fantastic.
Yes. Yes. Oh, somebody said that they could see David Ajala as the next James Bond. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think I can see that.
He's got that charisma. He's
Yeah.
got that look. He's got it. I'm all in.
Yeah, he's a great actor. He's a really good actor, and he's really shown his acting chops this season, I think. It's a
Yeah,
really
for
good
sure.
material to kind of get his teeth into, for sure.
We have explored this episode in some pretty deep ways. Luke, have we missed anything? Is there anything that you wanted to talk about?
I think we've covered everything. I'm just trying to think. Sorry, I'll just look at my notes quickly. I think we've covered everything.
I do think it's interesting that this season has been filmed over the course of the COVID-19 pandemic. And you can kind of see that in the sets. You can kind of see that in the positioning and how characters were placed in frame.
Yes.
And I wonder if moving forward, folks, podcasters like us will be noticing that in that change of the workflow, in the change in how scenes are shot.
Yeah, I mean, I think early on in this season, it was mentioned. I can't remember if it was one of our podcasters or what I read, but it was saying that because of COVID, they had lots of scenes with maybe just two people in. So they were the season was allowed to have these slowed down moments and real character interactions that people were really starting to like and engage with.
Yeah.
I think in the middle it sagged a little bit and it did make the pacing suffer.
Yeah.
Frustratingly so. But these last 3 episodes have really picked that back up, and it's still allowed these character moments, but they've found a real good pace, I think, for these past couple of episodes. And so it'll be interesting to see in season 5, where I think restrictions are almost non-existent now, or they're much less severe,
Right.
where I think we might see much more crowded situations, a much more different way of pacing and shooting scenes, I think.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, this is it's been a great chat. Luke, thank you so much for joining me. We are going, not you and I, but we as a network, we're going to be talking Star Trek Strange New Worlds next on this particular podcast. So next week we have the finale. Then we're going to be taking a little bit of a break through April, and we're going to pick up on Strange New Worlds. So, Luke, tell me, what is your hype level on Strange New Worlds? We've seen the trailer, we've seen the images, we've seen the new costumes. What's your take?
I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, it's new Star Trek. What's not to love about new Star Trek? I know there's some misgivings about how it's going to approach Trek. I know that the showrunners have promised a more episodic nature, kind of going back to 90s, the 60s and 90s Star Trek. That's going to be interesting for me. That's going to be really interesting to see what they do. But I'm sure, I mean, it's just the nature of modern television. There's going to be character arcs that flow through the episode, particularly with the fate of Christopher Pike, the fact that he knows his fate and that kind of looming over him. In the trailer, it shows him kind of in isolation on the snowy palette, Snowy Planet, riding horses and kind of being genuinely alone and being asked to come back to Starfleet. So I think that's gonna be quite a heavy character arc that goes through it. But it's going to be interesting to see how they meld that with episodic storytelling. So I'm very interested and very intrigued to see how the approach works. And I'm really looking forward to the cast. I really enjoyed them during season 2, so I'm really looking forward to seeing them back and kind of having a much more of a chance to really fill their roles as well.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. I echo everything you say. It's a lot of fun to get back on board the Enterprise. It's my one true love. You know, it inspired all of Trek for generations. 55 years of this great franchise, and to go back to the original. You know, the original series will always be there, but that 1960s style, you know, you have to take it for what it is. So this update, I really hope, is going to bring so many more people into the Trek family, into the Trek fold, and it's going to be really rewarding, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Luke, thank you so much for joining me. It's been such a pleasure to talk to you. Where can we find you on the Subspace Networks, other than We Made This?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pleasure as always talking to you, Mike, and coming on the show. I do like talking Trek. So you can find me. I mean, on We Made This, you can find me on Make It So, which is our Star Trek Picard podcast. So Discovery is ending next week, but you've still got some Trek podcasts with We Made This with Star Trek Picard, which for me has started with a tremendous 2 episodes. I think it's firing on all cylinders at the minute. So hope it continues. We shall see. Off the network, you can find me on Twitter at Luke_Winch, and I am developing a website at the minute called LukeWinch.com, which is going to kind of just have links to all my podcasts, but also to my book reviews. I do fantasy and sci-fi book reviews. I started on Goodreads, but I've kind of migrated now onto a blogging site just to kind of keep everything together. So that'll be launching soon. So look for that on social media as well.
Very good. Luke, thank you so much. Folks, I have seen an uptick in subscribers. Thank you so much. If you're new to the show, I appreciate you. Please go back and listen to some of our previous episodes following Star Trek Discovery. As we move forward, of course, we're going to be talking Strange New Worlds. We might even go back and watch some TOS stuff just to prep, so we might chat some of that. I don't know. Sky's the limit. You never know what you're going to find. So make sure you follow us at Starfleet Pod on Twitter and Instagram. My name is Mike Slamer. It has been a pleasure chatting Trek today, and with that, live long and prosper.
Elsewhere on We Made This. We dig music.
I got given a set of mindfulness cards as a Christmas present.
Okay.
And it's a load of fucking bollocks, it really is.
Is it like, with them being cards, I've got them like this image of them being like Brian Eno's Oblique Strategies, but with like, go and read a book or something like that.
Yeah, pretty much. But so there's these cards, you read them one a day and you're meant to do the tasks. And the task on one day was...
Listen to Bruce Springsteen.
Go and listen to a piece of music that you haven't heard before and listen to it without any prejudice, regardless of genre. And I'm like, have you met me? That isn't possible.
I do that every day anyway.
So I went and listened to something I hadn't heard before and didn't know what genre it was going to be because it was from a set of polls on Twitter. And I listened to this song. It was about someone and obsessive thoughts and worrying they were going to start cutting themselves. And I'm thinking, well, this isn't very mindful.
Chucky Vision, a Chucky podcast.
I'm vaguely familiar with point horror.
Did you ever read any?
Maybe as a kid, but I don't know them as well as I do Goosebumps.
Right, okay. But how do you feel the kind of adaptation from the books to the series worked? Were they direct adaptations of the books, or were they more inspired by continuation of?
They were pretty direct, actually. There's like 60 books or so, or at least in the original run. He always did those like Goosebumps 2000 and stuff. Like he was always updating the titles, which, I mean, God knows what kids are reading these days. I don't know if they're reading the original books.
Gotham U, a Batman podcast.
Hear what you're saying, and I can't help but think, like, is it just nostalgia that's giving Michael Keaton the pass on this? But also, it's not his fault. Warner Brothers came and gave him a check and was like, hey, be Batman. What's he gonna do? Say no?
No, not at all. And Michael Keaton himself even loved being Batman. He did an interview not too long ago. I don't remember what the interview was, but he was talking about coming back, and he described why he didn't do Batman forever. And, you know, for years there have been speculations, there have been rumors, and he put it to rest, and what everyone said was true. He just didn't like the direction that Warner Brothers was going with the Bat franchise.
Check out all of these shows and more on the We Made This podcast network.